This is the one sample significance test for quantitative data video project for stats. First, make sure you state. This is where you write your hypothesis. Use a population mean symbol mu. When you write your hypothesis, the null hypothesis HO will be the one that signifies no change. Mu will equal some constant. The alternative hypothesis HA will indicate a difference. Mu will be greater than, less than, or unequal to the constant. The second thing you must do is define mu in context, including what variable you are measuring and what population you are describing.
Next, you have to go on to the plan step. First, state the test that you are using. This will be a one-sample t-test for a mean. We will use a t-distribution and not a normal distribution to calculate our p-value because usually we do not know the population standard deviation. Because we use the sample standard deviation Sx as a substitute, we will use a t-distribution. Next, state what significance level you are testing at. If the problem specifies the significance level, mention it here. If the problem does not specify, a good general significance level to use is alpha equals 0.05. Finally, state the conditions. There are three that you must satisfy. The first one is the large sample / normality condition, which states that n must be greater than 30. If the sample size is not greater than 30, use the sample data and sketch a sample distribution to show that there is no strong skew or outliers. Then this condition is satisfied. Then you can satisfy the randomness condition. The data must come from a random sample or randomized experiment. And lastly, the 10% condition must be satisfied. This means that n must be less than or equal to 10% of the entire population size to ensure independence. However, on the AP exam, you do not have to show satisfaction of this condition. It's generally assumed that it's satisfied.
Now for the do step. This is the formula for the standardized test statistic. X bar minus the null hypothesis over the standard deviation divided by the sample size square root. T-distribution vary based on degrees of freedom, so you need to calculate the degrees of freedom, which equals n minus 1. We can use T-CDF with the degrees of freedom equaling n minus 1 to calculate our p-value. However, you can also use your calculator for this part in order to avoid the arithmetic mistakes. On the TI-84, go to Stat, then Test, then T-Test. Enter in the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis, as well as any other information prompted by the calculator. You can input all the sample data into your calculator and you can use input data, or you can use the value of the X bar and the standard deviation and use input stats. It depends on how much information is given to you by the problem. Once you hit calculate, the output will give you the standardized test statistic T and the p-value, among other information. To get full credit on the AP test, record the test statistic T, the p-value, and the degrees of freedom.
For the last step, we must conclude. In order to achieve complete credit, be sure to write 2 or more clear sentences describing and restating the outcome of your test in context of the problem. The first sentence follows this formula. Because the p-value is lower or higher than the significance level, we reject or fail to reject HO. If the p-value is lower than the significance level, we reject HO. If it is higher, we fail to reject HO. Remember, we cannot accept HO. We can only reject or fail to reject. The second sentence concludes, thus, there is or is not convincing evidence to support HA, or the alternative hypothesis. You should put this in context by reiterating what HA means, defining your variable and your population. The sample AP problem we chose for this test is number 4 from the 2007 AP test. This problem uses a paired t-test where one dataset is subtracted from another to form a single set of sample data. Most AP problems require you to conduct significance tests that are slightly more complicated than just a one-sample t-test. From there, we test significance using the same mechanisms as a one-sample t-test, but it is called a paired test. You can use this problem to practice the material in this video. Good luck on your future academic endeavors.
I think, are we done?
Yeah.